So I love talking about this topic actually of the power of conflict and what it means to me. And I like starting with acknowledging how scary conflict can be for very good reasons. Many of us have had very scary experiences with conflict, and it can be very destructive and harmful, and people die all the time because of conflict. We kill each other over conflict, and there's just all kinds of different levels of a sense of danger or harm or whatever. So I think of the analogy of fire. That fire can, cooks our food. It can be the fireplace that we sit around and are warmed by and have a beautiful, experience of warmth and like that, right? And then fire, as we know, can burn our houses down and kill us and destroy vast amounts of property and do tremendous damage. So conflict, that's a good metaphor for conflict, the fire of conflict, and how the amount of energy that is in conflict when things clash together. So I like to first acknowledge, there is real, things to be scared about because of our experience with that destructive side of conflict. And there is the other side, just like with fire, there's the side that's so constructive and helpful and brings out new possibilities for us, the way fire does. When things burn, then these new things can arise out of the fire afterwards. So I think the very same thing with conflict. So using this metaphor of fire, and I also like to think in terms of evolution and how I imagine evolution on our planet has happened, that the swirling gases and atoms came together and formed a planet, and there's probably lots of nuclear explosions and the coming together to create a planet. And then how there was more collisions and lots of conflict that then led to the molecules that got bigger, and then life and living cells, and then organs and organisms and more complexity. And each time, each leap of evolution, I'm guessing, was just tremendous clashing of differences that then found a way to fit together that led to a leap of new possibility, a new level of complexity and advancement, a progress of well-being. So that I think of, if we have the right tools to navigate conflict, and I really love that metaphor of navigation. So we can have these ways of relating in communication to what we're observing and feeling and needing and wanting, and that we can have different structures to support conversations that create this empathic connection. If we have these tools and structures and ways of relating with awareness and language, that we actually can create these containers for conflict. That then there's the alchemy as a tradition that really talks a lot about these containers that create transformation. And I believe that that this approach to communication and the different ways we can kind of create structures with that of conversation allow us to successfully navigate however difficult the conflicts. We can move through them with a sense of kind of trust and some safety, security, knowing we can get through, we can get to the other side. We can get to that new level of organization and possibility and transformation. And that's really what gives me hope, that we can take the conflict we're experiencing in the world right now around the political issues and different belief systems, and just a lot of polarization and tremendous kind of sense of erupting conflict in our society and lots of societies around the world, that we can take all that energy, and if we know how to skillfully work with it with these kind of tools, then we can actually use all that energy, that the potential of that energy for positivity, for constructive uses, that energy gets funneled into creating something new and amazing, and the ability to get to the next level. So I think that it's tempting to want to run away from conflict, but that if we have the confidence of these kind of skills and tools and structures, we can actually kind of face it and go into it and work with it. And it can take us to places that we wouldn't be able to get to without conflict. That conflict gives us the opportunity to find a creative way to synthesize differences in a great amount of heat often. So a lot of heat in the fire, but then when we get to the other side, we have come to something we couldn't have come to without the fire and the conflict. And I think especially now we're seeing in our life and with humanity and the challenges that we're facing on all kinds of different levels, really huge, even existential challenges for humanity and all the conflicts we're experiencing in our society, that we can use that energy in very productive ways if we have the tools and the skills. So I think it's really important to talk about the fight, flight, freeze part of our brain that's in charge of that. The survival mechanism in us that's from evolution, that we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. And what neuroscientists call the reptilian brain, our kind of really primitive, primal parts of our brain, the amygdala, and different ways that is now a lot of research on that part of the brain. What I really believe, if we don't have this way of relating to communication that can be about a mindful awareness and language that help us navigate conflict, because conflict I see is that it's the triggering of that fight or flight system. It's the part of us that is fighting for survival, that even if it's just in a relationship that we're having an argument, but that part of our brain can see it no different than like our life is literally in danger. And so the energy that gets brought up with that part of us is so strong. It's so easy to get into this mode of either fighting or wanting to run away or shut down or be really kind of blaming and reactive and negative ways that shut off the connection and shut off the compassion and the care and our cooperative abilities. And so if we don't have these kind of empathic communication tools, it's so easy to get overwhelmed by that fight or flight system. And so again, I think it's if this way of communicating and having conversation is just part of what we learn in how to be healthy, and where how we get disconnected from this place of natural empathic connectedness and compassion. If we just see that as part of what we need to know about ourselves as humans, and learning these tools and skills, and then that part of the brain that can hijack us and create so much damaging conflict and inability to work together, that it actually becomes possible. Not as easy, like it's still hard. We get triggered sometimes. Our trauma, most of us carry different kinds of trauma that gets activated. So conflict can get very intense, and that part of the brain, the amygdala, for some people, is very, very strong and active. And so, yeah, it's far from easy. But with these kind of practices and tools, we can actually work with that part of the brain in a different way, is how I think about it. We can learn how to soothe it and comfort it and have that be part, in the conversations that we're having, to take care of that part of us so that we're not overrun by it. And we can come back to the connection and the compassion that will allow us to collaborate, to get to these new possibilities. So I think being aware of that aspect of our humanness and what it leads to, the destructiveness and suffering and damage we do to one another, is very, really important to have an understanding of that, but that knowing that we can learn skills and abilities with communication and other modalities too that support to be able to not be overtaken by it.